speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags.
Good morning, Patriots, and welcome to the Patriots Prayer Podcast. I told you in the last episode we did with these two that it was going to be something you never heard before. I guarantee you, I know I delivered on my promise. The things that they're talking about, you're not hearing on another podcast. Now, Nate Cain is, like I said, he is a candidate for Congress in West Virginia. This is an America First guy who cares so much about the country and so much about doing what's right, and his convictions come from God. That is exactly who West Virginia needs representing them. We need another voice like that in Congress, period, for the entirety of the United States. So, guys, I beseech you. I got his link in the bio or the description of this podcast. Go down there, $10, $20, whatever you can give. This guy's up against special interest groups. He's up against lobbyists. If you really complain that all you have in the White House right now, all you have in Washington is a bunch of bought and paid for politicians that don't actually represent the people, well, do something about it, folks. Here's a guy who actually would. So reach into your purse, reach into your bank account, pull out your debit card. $10, $20, folks. It's not a lot to you or me right now in the scheme of things, but it's a lot when you get it from a lot of people. It goes a long way. And this guy really is out there fighting the good fight. So with that said, folks, let's go ahead and jump into part two. And it's going to be as explosive as part one. And it doesn't get any better than what I'm doing right now, guys. We are working on another interview coming out with a third FBI whistleblower that should happen in the week to follow. I'm not going to say his name right now because we're working out the details and that sort of thing, but we're already in communication. But it's someone you know. So, guys, look forward to that because I look forward to that. I actually can't wait. He's somebody that I've wanted to talk to for quite some time. So, we're working on that, and we'll bring that to you as soon enough. But do us a favor, folks. I don't care what how you're hearing us or how you're watching us on the Patriots Prayer, but go check out our other platforms where we're at and follow us everywhere, guys. Follow us on Twitter. I need you guys supporting me on every platform. It is so important. Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, Truth, everywhere there is a social media presence, everywhere there is a podcast, and quick update. We are now on Apple iTunes. We've been approved. Our podcast is being shown or being played rather on Apple iTunes podcast. So you can find us there too. So we really appreciate the support you guys have given us. You can also support us by supporting our sponsors. And we just got a couple of new really cool sponsors. And it's so cool, in fact, I think I'm going to be doing an entire show dedicated to a couple of the products that one of my sponsors has because they're that revolutionary. That revolutionary. Imagine being able to never have to buy laundry detergent ever again in your house and saving money on the energy bill at the same time because you don't have to use hot water. That's one of the products. So I'm going to put a link in the description for that as well. It's called Laundry Pure 2.0. Take a look at it when you get an opportunity. But before all that, guys, went down too many rabbit holes. Let's jump right into the podcast. And I'll talk to you after.
He had no backbone to do it.
And he turned on Trump, and it was so heartbreaking to watch. You know, when he couldn't when he's sitting there for 4 years with the guy, and you're attacked as much as he is, and you know the truth of what's going on behind the scenes, you're there. So when you're asked, hey, would you pardon him from these fake indictments and all these things that are happening to him, you know, that should have been the easiest yes. Everyone on that panel that said yes, that wasn't even sitting next to him, don't know half of what Mike Pence knows, being a part of that administration. And yet he couldn't just come up and just give an unequivocally just yes, absolutely, without thinking about it. And then, so I was a lot harder on Pence for one reason. He continually stated he's a Christian.
Yep.
And so for that reason, that's the one thing and the one reason why I was harder on him than I was on everyone else. And then DeSantis was next because betrayal is, to me, it's high crime treason to me when you betray people that helped you and got you to where you are. But Pence sitting on that stage and then making all of those off the cuff remarks about Trump as if he's not talking about himself in the process just didn't even make any sense to me. And DeSantis and Tim Scott, I mean, I thought Tim Scott was completely a very presidential guy. I saw him on The View and I saw him handle those women and the way he conducted himself. I was like, wow, this guy's very presidential. And then, then all of the, undertones of, the Ukraine war and how he felt about Trump started slowly coming to the surface in the debates. It's just sad to see that we really beyond Trump and I believe he'll be president. I don't know what they'll do and toward when we get to the last leg of that race, what they'll try to do in order to stop it, because they're in a frenzy right now. They are. I don't really put anything past them.
I don't see how they win any case that they have out against them right now. I do have some concerns about some of these states, trying to keep them off the ballot, but ultimately the Supreme Court is going to have to step in and do something. And so
that's what's going to happen, David. That's the thing that'll kick off your prediction right there. If they throw Trump off this ballot, I think that what happens in this country is people are going to realize that we don't have, with the optics of the illusion of freedom and free choice and law and order and all that go away. And what happens is the socialist, communist masks of, people behind the scenes pulling the strings, that comes off. We see you now. And when people see them, I don't think that the United States is seen the same way anymore from that point forward. If they kick Trump off the ballot, I think that people are going to be up in arms.
Yeah, I mean, you hear this all the time. The politicians always say the next election's the most important one. But I really do think that the next election could quite possibly be the most important one, to the point I'm even gambling, is it going to go through? I mean, I've never in my entire existence in America did I ever question an election was going to go through. I'm actually debating whether next year's election is going to go through smoothly. That right there, that doubt in my mind is very abnormal. This is not what we should have. We should have 99.9% of the citizens. I mean, if we are going to have a democracy, our electoral system, our elections have got to be safer than what we want to do, go into these foreign wars and protecting other countries. If we can't protect our electoral system, we don't have a democracy anymore.
Yeah. And if they throw away the electoral college the way they keep talking about throwing it away, or even trying to make DC a state, either way, the balance of power is just thrown completely off the rails. They continually make that argument with DC about no taxation without representation. But if they really want to argue that no taxation without representation, Nate being a candidate yourself and most likely going to win, I'll put that out there prophetically for you. I argue the reverse must be true too. Meaning, if you say no taxation without representation, what about no representation without taxation? If you didn't put in on this, how in the hell are you going to get a vote? You're just going to vote to continue to keep getting your entitlements and your other, this sort of thing. How do you feel about that? Is that just crazy? Is that radical, or am I on to something?
Well, I definitely feel like one of the problems that we have is we get taxed multiple different ways, and nobody seems to be addressing that. The fact that you got to pay all these fees, to the federal government for everything. Yeah. In many ways, we're getting, taxed and, double taxed and triple taxed. One of the worst things that was done, in my opinion, was the way that they changed the laws to tax on, put a tax on cryptocurrency. It clearly was done in order to, basically stop, people from investing and trading.
How do you feel about the 16th Amendment in general, Nate? Was it truly ratified? Is the IRS a legal entity? Or was Ron Paul right?
I would be 100% for abolishing the IRS. Why do we need them? And why should they have guns?
Oh, yeah.
Why does the IRS need ammunition and guns? Mm-hmm. That seems a little off to me. So the U.S. Treasury, they they could do everything that the IRS does. And then as far as enforcing the law, again, we have law enforcement for that. We don't need, a federal agency, that has armed individuals to come after us.
The IRS, I feel, are the police officers, the agents of the foreign banks. They don't answer to our judges. They matter of fact, they don't even need warrants to take your paycheck or
now that you
assets.
mentioned that, I mean, we have let's talk about that. What is our national debt? 33 trillion, right? 34 trillion, something like that. Who owns that money? Because it's not the United States. So again, I think you're right. I think that they're actually acting in the interest of these foreign nations that we owe money to, not acting in the interest of the American people. Mm-hmm. And again, on that issue of borrowed debt, when we have to borrow money from other countries, why are we giving foreign aid?
Right.
Because aren't we just borrowing the money to give it to the Ukraine, or even, and I love Israel and support Israel, but my love for Israel and my support for Israel to have the right to defend themselves does not include us borrowing money to give to them to fight their war.
I don't understand in some cases why money even comes into the equation. In some cases,
agree.
I don't even understand why all of a sudden you can win the war because I gave you a half, $100 million. Now the war changes. Like, are you not? Did you just take a break and you're not? So your soldiers don't want to fight anymore. I don't understand in some cases why money is the difference between winning and losing a war.
Well, look at what's going on in the Ukraine. They received, I think it was $300 billion of the monies that they received was unaccounted for. And when they started looking into it, they found that there were lavish vacations and apartments and sports
AIG style.
Yeah.
And this, I'll tell you, and this could spark why American citizens one day, just like our Revolutionary War, they're not going to pay taxes anymore. They've lost.
It's already happening.
We're spending our tax money, overseas and this and that, and you want more from us. Be very careful. I've got a story with my taxes why I don't pay tax anymore. Most people don't know. America is the only country
this
on
is
Earth.
Going out on the internet. You don't want to admit to any more crimes.
No, I'll tell you, it's already out in the book. Most Americans don't know, but look at this, how just treasonous this country is. America is the only country in the world that taxes worldwide income. So even if you're not living in America, and you're living in another country, you still have to pay American tax. I'm in China. I'm working for the Boeing company. Obviously, I got everything's automated too. You work for the Boeing company. It's not like everything's automated. I have to pay Chinese tax. And then
what's their tax system like over there? Not to slow you down, but I'm curious. What
you mean
is the tax system?
Hong Kong is really nice. Hong Kong has got a flat
tax rate.
15%.
Okay.
Yeah, 15%. Now mainland's different. The point is my wages were garnered without my control by the United States government. I'm not even getting paid in US dollars. I'm getting paid in renminbi. They garner it back to America. So you're gonna take my tax money and bring it back to America, but I'm not welcome to come back to America. I mean, I could go off on that tangent, but it is something that is unique with America. It's the only country in the world that taxes you you still have to pay American tax, even if you don't even live in America and you make no income source from America. So
David, what would happen to you, in your opinion? What do you think would happen? You board a flight tomorrow to come back to the United States, and what do you think what occurs?
So the problem is now that I've written the book, and the book again, I didn't get any authorization from the FBI to do it because they wouldn't talk to me. So I was trying to talk to them about the investigation. So the point is now there could be other things. Notice I'm saying a lot about civil war and collapse. Before I was a private individual.
This happens on the news all day long. People assume that there may be some conflict of civil war, the eventuality of, or any of that. These are not new things or new revelations.
But the point is our tax money pay for the FBI. Why should I even have to guess? I've reached out to the FBI formally. It's all documented. Why do I have to get? Why shouldn't they earn their paycheck and respond to me, or a congressman and senator? But we shouldn't, as a U.S. citizen, I shouldn't have to be wondering what would they do. I've reached out to them, and they should be responding to me.
Well, just so that Nate understands your story here, since I have both of you here, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I do remember exactly the situation. Explain to Nate exactly why all this happened. You had a relationship that was they deemed unsafe.
And that's what I'm saying. We don't know. What I could say is, and I've written a book about it, but let's just pose this to the American public. I'm an American citizen, military veteran. Why am I not welcome back to America? And that's the key. And I break that down. I'm detained, searched, interrogated, spied on, humiliated, and physically assaulted while I'm there. This is huge. The FBI knows about it, the congressmen and senators. I mean, I get treated better in a foreign country. And I go through what happened to me. And from the time I arrived and went through it, that was formally presented to the FBI because you start at the lowest level. So, and this is documented. So I had a meeting in Beijing with the FBI LEGAT and the ALAT. It's all documented. And I went to them face to face. I know you're spying on me. Stop. Level whatever allegations you have to me. But to the American public, this is how crazy it is. Could you imagine the FBI spying on a U.S. citizen? They go to your neighbor. They ask about you. They go to your boss, ask about you. They go to these are damages that get done.
This happened to Nate as well. This happened. The same thing happened to Nate as well.
Then all of a sudden, you, through your own sources, you want to keep it confidential. I want to keep it confidential. They're spying on me. Then you go to the FBI field office. You knock on their door and say, "Listen, you little boys, you little girls, I know you're spying on me. Level the allegation." And you know what the FBI says? No comment. They don't talk to you, but then they continue to spy around. This is the most un-American. You don't do that. I mean, I cannot imagine. And so, and like I said, if they would have just stayed in America, which is horrible, I would have never went back to America. This is not what I want to do. I still want to go back, visit family, friends, but I would have stopped. Then they go overseas and they start talking to foreign. And again, this is what we would do in America. If I said this story before, Eddie, if the French intelligence agency contacted the FBI in America and they said, "Listen, we have a French citizen in America. We want to know what he's doing. Who's his contacts? Who's this?" We'd have to launch an investigation immediately on the French national. After we launch an investigation, if we find nothing he's doing wrong, like me, I wasn't doing anything wrong overseas, because if I was, I'd probably be arrested. I mean, you got to use common sense. So we find nothing wrong with the French citizen, but we're like, then why is the French intelligence? We would probably say, don't say anything to the French citizen, cancel his work visa, persona non grata, and kick him out. And he was. And I will release the details about that. That was the impetus that said, no more, because I can't hide from him overseas. Now I'm unemployed. You can imagine the anger I had. And so I think to the American citizens, we shouldn't have to be guessing what they would do or this, meaning it's like, why am I chasing the FBI? They should now level the allegations to me or say something, but you just can't take an American citizen, detain, interrogate, humiliate, assault, deceive, and covertly. I was on covert surveillance and I caught him. This is not America. What are we turning into? I get treated better in foreign countries. Some people are like, why don't you want to come back to America? I literally get treated better in foreign countries than my own country, but I shouldn't be doing a guessing game. They should now.
You're forced to sign papers at the end of the barrel of 3 guns, if I remember.
Oh yeah, that was ridiculous in terms of that. And like I said, I didn't even get a chance to read what I was signing, so I don't know what it is. I don't know this, but I could tell you, I didn't want to sign because I was at the airport. I just wanted to fly. I was going to Boston to start my Harvard program. I just wanted to leave. They forced me, you could say, detain me into a conversation. This is not how we treat American citizens. It's just ridiculous.
Nate was poisoned multiple times. Nate talked about touching some powdery substance that was on a surface and immediately going into AFib. His son was, they were trying to set up his son for receiving nude photos from someone they tried to term to be underage, but it was most likely the FBI themselves doing this.
Extortion. Yeah, it was an extortion scheme. And the reason why, at first I just thought maybe it was just random or whatever, but and I looked at my son's text messages, and he's got autism, and he was on a dating site for adults, and some girl sent him naked pictures or naked video or whatever. And he responded back to her, "Why are you sending this to me? I don't want this. I just want to be friends." And I looked at his text. I saw what his text said, and I said, just delete him then. Because what happened was, after this girl sent it, then he gets this phone call on his phone from some guy claiming to be the girl's father, and and saying that you're gonna go to jail and all this kind of stuff. So I end up eventually I get on the phone. I tell the guy, "Look, my son didn't do anything. He's deleted those photos. I've looked at the text messages, and it says very clearly that he told her he didn't ask for it. He told her he didn't want him." And the guy kept pressing the whole thing. And so finally I told the guy, you need to hang up, because right now the only person that's committed a crime here is your daughter. And who he was claiming was 16 years old and was, underage. Mind you, she's on a website where she lied and said she was 18 years old to be on.
Well, what most people won't realize is, in that story, they had to have been monitoring your son's online presence to even be able to put someone in a position to set him up.
And it gets worse than that. So eventually he calls my son back and harasses my son to the point where my son, tried to take his life, because he thought that, he was going to be arrested and embarrass, his family and all of this. And I'm pissed, of course. And so I end up, yelling at this guy over the phone, telling him, "Don't you ever call me again, or I will go after you." And I end up leaving. We leave the state. We come to, West Virginia. And while I'm here in West Virginia, I get a phone call on my new phone number, which isn't even listed. Wow. And it's some guy claiming he's with some Interpol, anti-trafficking unit or whatever, and claiming that, I need to call this girl's father or whatever, and work something out. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. First of all, how did you?
That's the extortion you're talking about. They were trying to get you to shut up.
And I said, how did you get this number, and what is there to work out? And then I asked the guy, is this some sort of extortion scheme? Because I got nothing to say to you, and you can go pound sand. I used a few flowery words. Well,
guys, before we get any further into that, I need to take a quick little break here for the sponsors, and we're going to get right back to it. Don't go anywhere. And just like it says, use the code Patriot and you get an additional 10% off all your purchases at Redemption Shield. So right as we were getting out of here, it went on break. Conversation was heating up, but I wanted to get to some of what I was talking about earlier with David. David was talking about specific laws and that sort of thing, as NSA, national security, kind of trumps constitutionality in some cases and that sort of thing. But he had an instance of something that he explained to me on the last podcast, where his electronic devices were taken as he was entering the country with no warrant, and they could just go through. Explain, please.
Have you noticed the ever-alarming 400,000 cell towers that have gone up in the United States alone? How about the electronics that reside in every room of our homes, and Wi-Fi that runs 24/7? 5G cell phones are carried in our pockets hours on end. Common complaints are ringing in the ear: sleep deprivation, palpitations, headaches, memory loss, and so much more. Redemption Shield is on the cutting edge of offering products that protect your family from electromagnetic and microwave radiation. From Faraday bags, earthing bed sheets, Wi-Fi router covers, hats, scarves, bed sanctuaries, this will not be going away anytime soon. We will continue to see only faster speeds, 6G, 7G, and more exposure to EMF than any time in our history. Start protecting yourself now. Go to redemptionshield.com and get grounded and shielded today. Use code PATRIOT and save 10%.
Okay. So again, and I write in the book, I always think Leadership 101, if you come with a problem, at least come with a solution. So we talked about the FISA Act. I think it should be abolished when it comes to U.S. citizens. There's another one. I got to look it up. I've written in the book. It's called the Entry-Exit Border Exception Policy. I might be missing a couple words in there. It's an actual law. It's unconstitutional. And this is what it is. And again, I actually don't mind a foreign national. So for foreign nationals, as far as I'm concerned, keep it alive. But for U.S. citizens, this should be abolished. And this is what it is. If you are a U.S. citizen and you are we online, Eddie?
Yes, we are.
Okay, just want to make sure. So if you are a U.S. citizen and you travel into or out, either one, if you travel into America, because I got searched both ways, into America or out. So we're talking the border with Mexico. We're talking an international airport, any type of entry into and out. You as a U.S. citizen, you basically surrender your Fourth Amendment. Surrender your Fourth Amendment.
So and that means there's no warrant, no anything. When you leave the country, if you're coming back in, they don't need a search warrant, and they can just take your cell phone and say, "I want the password to this," and you have to, and you would legally have to give this to them.
And so that's what the FBI does. The FBI will send a message to DHS border. They'll flag your passport. This is a U.S. citizen. They'll say, U.S. citizen Eddie Smith, here's his passport number. You will enter into America or leave, either one. Your passport will get flagged after you go through customs. You're coming in. As soon as you get flags, DHS, they will have a message from the FBI. And it could include that or not. It's whatever the FBI wants. But if the FBI says search his digital equipment, they will search it. Even if you have zero evidence, zero probable cause, nothing. And they'll do that when you come in, which they did to me. And literally, this is where they humiliated me. Right when I'm about to board the flight, all the other passengers are lined up. And then two Customs and Border Patrol agents walk up to me, and they search me right in front of all the passengers. They go through all my stuff because that's considered like, the enter and exit. I find it to be it's unconstitutional. You don't do that to a U.S. citizen, and you got to surrender everything. And I think we could all agree, especially your digital equipment, that's an intrusive search. I mean, of course, they patted me down and everything, but when they take away your digital equipment, and they go through everything, they went through my money. They counted dollar for dollar. I had a notebook. They opened up the notebook and took pictures of every single page. I took off my sneakers, took off the soles of my feet, took out the laces. I mean, it's an intrude in front of everyone, by the way. I mean, people all looked at me like I was about to get arrested. It's unconstitutional. And the FBI uses that. They don't need any evidence, no probable cause.
What section of the Constitution is that? I mean, I don't understand how it's possible.
I would agree with you, and I'd go so far as to say that TSA is unconstitutional. The fact is that they shouldn't exist. If a private airport wants to have their own security, that's one thing. They have a right to do that. But the government does not have a right to search you without probable cause. And you getting on an airplane is not considered probable cause.
Yeah, it's absolutely. So those two events I at least have through Freedom of Information Act, DHS. They wrote it. They redacted a lot. There's a lot redacted. But it's on record that I was searched in and out Chicago O'Hare Airport. And I said, what was the reason? And there's a specific clause in there that says, if it is, because they never said it to me, but if the clause says, if it is related to national security, we are under no obligation to tell you that it was national security. Mm-hmm. It was obviously national security. So that's why they said, sorry, we can't tell you the reason for why you did that or why we searched you. But, I have the documents at least that I was searched in and out of the airport.
Wow. Have you heard of this, Nate? Is it a thing?
No, I have not, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, right now, there's so much that is going on just blatantly in our faces that are violating our constitutional rights. And again, I blame Congress because ultimately they have the ability to defund these agencies. They're our representatives, and they need to be defunding any programs that are unconstitutional.
But the problem is with Congress is that, like a lot of those guys, as you know, which is part of your platform, is that they're bought and paid for, and you're not, and you're going to go in there. You're not beholden to anyone. You can go in there and stand up for what's right and not give a damn what anyone thinks in the process. These guys, both Republican and Democrat alike, a lot of them are bought and paid for. You have FTX, who just recently, Sam Bankman-Fried got found guilty on all charges, thank God. But what they don't talk about is the other side of that, which is his partner. And his partner that was involved with that was the one funneling money into the coffers of the Republicans. And Sam Bankman-Fried was the Democratic face of FTX, but there were others, I mean, Scalise and others that were receiving money and kickbacks from FTX. And they know this. This is not, I'm not saying anything new. And 13 of the 22 that didn't vote for Jim Jordan as Speaker of the House were people who received money from FTX. Emmer
himself was one that received a lot of money from FTX and did not return it. He kept very quiet about it.
Yeah, and that kind of thing right there is the stuff. I mean, remember when Obama created the law, it says that Congress is and this is right after he became president, Congress is no longer allowed to do any insider trading. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is right after Elizabeth Warren got in trouble and all this sort of things out. So the optics were there. And then he makes a law. It's like, hold up, wait. When were they ever allowed to insider trade? So essentially what he did was a soft pardon. I like to liken it to a mayor about a year back. He goes in and he walks into a school board hearing and he sits down in front of them and says, you know, I spoke to a judge earlier tonight and you guys have exposed children to pornography and this sort of thing. And so I have the right to file charges. And if you guys don't resign your posts, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And everybody looked at that like he did something great. And I looked at that like, you traitor. You literally just told these people that we're not going to charge you. And you made it look like you punished them when in fact you didn't do a damn thing. These people exposed children to pornography in the school. And you just said, okay, get out of jail free card here. You understand what I mean? How it looks like we're doing stuff when in fact we're not. We posture so much and we're going to investigate this. We're going to go after that person. And we argue a lot with some pretty big news stories out for a while. Some time goes by, people lose interest in it. And the next thing you know, nothing has ever happened. Nothing. How do we fix that?
Well, we're going to have, without a doubt, like I said, some sort of, Article 1 tribunal. I don't think that we can have any kind of fixing of anything without an adjudication of what is constitutional and what is not. And more importantly, without doing something to ensure that the executive branch, and the judicial branch for that matter, follows the law. Yeah. If they're not following the law, then all of it is a moot point. And, the biggest power that Congress has is the power of the purse. They're not using it. I don't know why. They should be using it.
Well, we just seen Biden essentially disobey an order from the Supreme Court when it comes to the college loan deal. They ruled it unconstitutional, and he did it anyway. So is there some way he can be held accountable? And if so, why isn't anyone talking about it?
Yeah, impeachment. Impeachment is really, that's the only process you have in order to hold the president accountable. That's it. There's only one remedy, and it's impeachment. And, I realize that they see it as a kind of a pointless, thing because you don't have a Senate that would go along with it. But again, there's a couple of positives that come out of the impeachment process. One is there is an investigation. The Democrats understood that quite well. That's why they impeached Trump, even though they knew they weren't going to get him out.
They voted for 104 votes to impeach him. Before he even became president, they had 104 votes to impeach him before he ever took the oath of office. Before there was ever a rumor of a misdemeanor or high crime or any of that, they were already in motion.
They understand. The Democrats understand something. They understand the power of propaganda, and they use it quite well. The Republicans, they don't seem to understand that, and I don't understand why they don't turn that around and use it on the Democrats. The fact is that they should be absolutely impeaching Biden, bringing all of this to light, if for no other reason than to hurt his chances in the next election. Even if they know, that it's not going to go anywhere because the Senate isn't in the control of the, it's not in the control of the Republicans. The fact is that in the case of Biden, they actually have a legitimate claim. It's not a bogus impeachment, claim, unlike, what the Democrats did to Trump.
Exactly. And they're still trying, believe this or not, they are still trying to connect Trump to Russian ties and they're, even though everything that's happened is completely disproven that they still are pushing that narrative. I see it all the time. It's still to this day, I still see them talking about it. And
so
we need a responsible media. And I think we talked about this in the past. I forget which one of you guys I was speaking to, but probably both of you. And I said it, but we need to investigate the media. The media is the culprit. It's the head of the snake.
Well, who are they guys?
Vanguard, BlackRock, these types of people who obviously own everything. I mean, I have my old co-host, one of the guys that I started this with a long while back. He loved to talk about the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and that sort of thing. And I was never willing, and still am really not willing to ever go down that road unless they actually have their name brought up in something, and I can point to them and say they did this or they were involved. But their names never come up. You never see them in the news or attached to a conspiracy or a controversy or anything like this. But we can point to things like BlackRock and we can Vanguard and other companies who just about own everything. And
yeah,
that's not a lie. I mean, everything.
There's a lot of monopolistic type of behaviors with these companies. It's interesting. I don't know, David, maybe you can answer this, but like, what is the FBI doing in regards to antitrust laws? Because I haven't seen any action by them in that regard in a very long time. Not really since the Microsoft cases when Bill Gates was being, and the Microsoft was being looked at for antitrust lawsuits. Do you remember that?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not quite sure how the FBI gets involved. I don't know if that's white collar crime or, it's dealing it, where would we work that specific issue? That's a pretty interesting issue because, like I said, I think these corporations, and I work for two of them. I work for both Amazon in China and the Boeing company in China. This is where our capitalism, and I'm a proud capitalist, but it's changing. We're turning into what's called corporate capitalism. These corporations now are in cahoots with the government. They're taking away our control. They're killing small business entrepreneurs. It is. It's change. It's not the capitalism. But what I also did, I don't know if you guys are in the private chat, but I sent 3 links in the private chat, which goes to the border exception policy. And interesting, I just looked it up now, but there's an article where, and of course, this was after my time. This is in May of this year, May of 2023. It says a federal judge makes history in holding that border searches of cell phones require a warrant. So who knows? Maybe there's change underway, which should be. But for me, when I went in there, warrantless. There's no warrant, and they went through everything, And besides my personal property and everything, we could all agree your digital devices is pretty intimate. What sort of stuff you kept, and who knows what they were like 3 hours in some and that's another thing too. I couldn't even accompany them to oversee what they were doing. They take it in a private room, and there it is. But I put in 3 articles right there to kind of explain what this is. But it looks like there is now pushback, from some type of judges, which again, it's in violation of the 4th Amendment.
I mean, if you really view what Trump did under his administration, and really from history will probably tell a different story, but those people that he placed on our Supreme Court have done an amazing job. And I think that if we can actually get cases in front of these particular Supreme Court justices, real groundbreaking cases, that we might actually see some real change that take place. I mean, Roe v. Wade was just the tip of the iceberg. There are other things that need to be brought before these guys while we can. But I get so afraid of them stacking the courts. And I think that they absolutely will do it. I don't think that they have any issue at all with stacking the court at all. No.
Well, that's why we have to win both the House and the Senate. We cannot have the Democrats get control, because they will do it.
Guys, I want to play something for you, and these calls were made. I think I let you hear one of them on our call, Nate, last time. But this is a new one, and it's pretty earth shattering, to be quite honest with you. And this is a call. Let me preface it, between Biden calling Hunter about the classified documents he's in possession of, saying that essentially that law enforcement's not going to get off of his ass about having them. And then listen to what he tells Hunter to do with the red cell phone. Now, so that the listeners are clued in, I want to preface this by saying, you know what the red cell phone is, right? I don't. So it's an encrypted cell phone. It's a cell phone that keeps everything private, and essentially it's like the little secret cell phone deal. But listen to what he says here. First of all, can you hear it?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let me bring it up. I was wondering if it would work without me bringing it over, but I want to bring it in, and you'll be able to hear it. All right, so there it is. So,
hey, Bill, it's Dad. Look, I don't think they're going to get off my ass about these documents. I know that there's at least, I want to say, 5 more places that I can remember that they are. Listen, use the red cell phone. Call up Barack and Michelle. Tell them Operation Crash and Burn is a go.
Oh, damn.
Please.
Now, this was just made public. That's why I'm saying I don't know if any of you have heard this.
No,
it's been verified, but he said exactly what you think he just said. He said, tell Barack and Michelle that Operation Crash and Burn is a go. Now, I heard these calls first on Bongino's show. But here, I'll play it again for the listeners that may not have.
Bongino usually waits a couple of days. He doesn't like to put stuff out there unless he's confirmed.
Yeah, this is confirmed. Listen, I'll play it again just so the listeners can hear.
Look, I don't think they're going to get off my ass about these documents. I know that there's at least, I want to say, 5 more places that I can remember that they are. Listen, use the red cell phone. Call up Barack and Michelle. Tell them Operation Crash and Burn is a go.
Now, if your name was Trump and that happened,
you'd be arrested. You'd be in jail.
I mean, there is no good way at all to explain that.
Like, it sounds to me as a clear case of obstruction of justice, if nothing else.
Yeah, he's telling them to destroy evidence. Yeah. And he's doing it with the secret cell phone that he said didn't exist. Now, when they went through and they were doing the investigation, there was a cell phone number that came up on financial statements for bills that were paid and this sort of thing. And then there's a guy who came out and said, well, I was just curious because I picked up I got the cell phone number and I called it. And Joe Biden answered the cell phone. So he immediately, upon hearing who was on the other end of the phone, hung up. And this is nuts, the amount of information that we have on this guy of his absolute corruption. And it doesn't stop there, right? If Joe Biden is the first domino to fall, that leads right to Obama's doorstep. But it doesn't lead to Obama's doorstep prior to going through most of the Democratic Party, because everyone who is out there yelling right now, there's no evidence, is in on it. They know. I mean, imagine how much more information they have that they know that we don't have, and yet they're saying what they're saying. They have access to a ton more than you or I do. So they know, and they know more, and yet they are out there saying there's no evidence. There's no evidence. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, from what I'm thinking is this, and that is sometimes when these politics are going to get so competitive from different angles, meaning Republicans or Democrats, I actually think, call it hatred, call it, whatever feelings you want, that I don't think many times they care about what was right or wrong or illegal or legal, meaning stop Trump, and I think this is the danger of our politics. We're going to, and our nation, as we're going to go, that we're going to get to the level of, where we are going to be less concerned with what is legal or illegal, and it's just that those people on either side destroy them or take them out. No, meaning this is the foundations of civil war, where you're not going to be asking first, well, what was that, legal or illegal? It's just defeat the other side. Mm-hmm. And now it's at a political level, but if it keeps getting higher in intensity, where is this going? This is not something, and in fact, it's getting so sad in America that, again, this is the president of the United States, where we're sort of like, yeah, what's the next scandal? Meaning we're almost starting to get numb. Like the regular people, that we're almost to the point thinking like, yeah, we're probably going to go to civil war. This is getting to be almost, it's not shocking anymore to us.
Yeah. This is why I think Mockingbird is still a thing. I think it's still in effect. I think the Twitter files proves to some level that it's still in effect.
In fact, like even to my story, like to anyone that doesn't believe my story, not one congressman or senator has asked. It's and that was also something I learned with Boeing when I had the case in China, where we always believe that other countries are corrupt. Especially third world countries are corrupt, but our justice system, our government and everything. But I'm thinking we're starting to realize that our system is falling apart in front of our eyes. And we're like, wait a minute, I thought American, and especially, again, my video, I never imagined in my life that the Chinese justice system, an American citizen, military veteran, I would get justice in China. And in America, she wouldn't even let me take it to court. So I think this is going to increase in America, where we're going to lose trust in the system. And if you lose trust in the system, you're going to take violence in your own hand, because you're going to take vigilante, because you're not going to believe that justice is going to get served.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And just in New York, there was a man that was robbed right out in the middle of the street, an older man. And the guy who had a knife to him, and he shot him. Well, the older man had a heart attack because of the incident. He wakes up in the hospital, handcuffed to a bed, and the person who got shot was being deemed a victim. And to this day, that's the old man is going to go to court, and he's charged with first-degree murder. And it's amazing to me that this is really happening. The rancher in Arizona who protected his property and he had the rifle and he shot the guy is in prison right now.
Yep,
guys. How do we fix this, Nate? How do we change these things? What do we do?
I've believed for a long time, and I still believe it now, that the only way that we can turn things around is there has to be accountability and transparency. When Director Wray came into the FBI after Comey had damaged so badly the reputation of the FBI, I had high hopes. I thought, maybe Director Wray is going to open things up, have transparency, show how he's cleaning house. And nope, he sent out an email to everybody in the bureau saying, oh, we need to protect the brand of the FBI. And I remember thinking to myself, you idiot. Don't you realize the brand of the FBI is already damaged? And the only way that you can clean that up, the only way that you're going to restore any kind of faith and trust in the FBI is if you actually have transparency and people who have committed crimes, who work for the Bureau, go to jail.
That's exactly right.
So if they're not going to do that, then, then as far as I'm concerned, they need to, disband the FBI, defund them, whatever they're going to do.
So if you create an alternate FBI in its stead.
You already have you have other law enforcement agencies that exist that are nationally. You got the U.S. Marshals. You've got several others that probably people don't even know about. But they can do things and move some of those responsibilities around. And then plus two, there's statewide law enforcement. I think the state, the states actually have the jurisdiction to take care of probably 99% of what the FBI is doing. The only reason that the FBI exists, quite frankly, is because they're funded. You defund them, and there you go. You shut it down.
It's funny how many things get better when you defund them.
Yeah.
I hear it right now that they're actually talking about some probable peace talks in Ukraine and Russia. Well, because I think that Zelensky is starting to see that the American people are done with funding this proxy war, and he knows there's no long-term solution here. So he's going to start. Now he's opening the door to peace talks with Putin. That was just yesterday. So, I mean, this is the way. You're right. You cut the purse strings, you hold people accountable, and you have a little bit of transparency. The problem is that when the coffers, the ranks of those organizations are so corrupt by the people taking payoffs, people involved in things they wouldn't want made public, transparency is something that they're absolutely scared to death of.
So clearly, so this is where it comes down to Congress does not want transparency. All right.
Or term limits.
That's right. They've made sure that they don't have that FOIA does not apply to them. They're not susceptible to FOIA. And
or FOIA vaccine mandates. Did you know that they got to buy on the vaccine mandates?
It's and I think FOIA has some problems too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I do. There are some things that I think are a problem, but I'm for, just generally speaking, for anything that the government does, whether they spend money, whether they have conversations, I think there should be transparency. I think that, that's why I've made that pledge to, record any meeting that I have with a lobbyist and make it public immediately. And then I plan to virtue signal that and, get all of my other members.
Your sound cut out there. I lost your sound. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you, Eddie.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I hit the wire, and unfortunately it's got a short in it. So, but yeah, so I think that until we have some sort of, level of transparency within Congress, how can Congress demand transparency from our, executive branch if they're not willing to have transparency themselves?
Well, Nate, what do? You're elected, right? Congressman Nate Cain, you're elected, you're sworn in. Day one, what are you doing?
Day one, I'm going to set up a system so that any person, lobbyist, or anybody that's coming in that has anything to do with money or appropriations or, or anything like that, if they come into my office and they want to have a conversation with me and talk to me, it's going to be recorded and it's going to be made public immediately. I'm going to set that system up on day one. It is going to make it very clear to K Street that you're not going to come in here and bribe me. You're not going to come in here. And then I'm going to, after a few months of doing that, I'm going to find out really quickly whether or not the lobbyists want to talk to me if they know that, that I'm public. And, to me, it's a win-win, because it's going to expose who the real corrupt lobbyists are. And it's going to expose who the good lobbyists are, because if you're a good lobbyist that's actually bringing forward ideas that are, in the best interest of the American people, and we're recording it and we're talking about it, and
you're just going to see that as press. That's all you're going to see it as. If you're a good guy, it's press. If you're not, you're not even going to want to sit down with me and meet with me.
That's right. And I'm going to use that. I'm going to use it as a means of bringing the hammer down. And then the next step is I'm going to go to my fellow members of Congress, starting with the caucuses that I caucus with and my own party. And I'm going to say, look, guys, look at what I'm doing and look at how it is working. Are you willing to do the same? And I believe that the majority of them are going to say no. And they're going to hate my guts, and they're going to be pissed off because I'm going to be wrecking their little system of power and control and money. And at the end of the day, I don't think that we have to get new people that are not tainted by that money. Mm-hmm. So anybody that is part of that system, the McCarthys, the big fundraisers that raise all these funds from K Street,
sure,
those are the guys that have to go. And then those are the things that I can do. I can only do what I can control. But eventually, I'm going to make the appeal to the American people. I'm going to say, you know what, look at what's happening in my office. Mm-hmm. I've got a completely transparent office. Wouldn't you like to see that in your representative's office? So
I'm reminded
why don't you make the decision that you're not going to, vote for in your primaries, that you're not going to vote for these guys that are on the take. And then, I'll probably see Congress change. And that's my hope.
You remember Trump sitting down with Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff? They were in his office. Was it Schiff or was it, I forget, maybe it may have been Schumer, but they were in President Trump's office, and the news cameras were there and everything, and they were arguing about whether or not there will be a government shutdown, and Trump goes right into it, and they're like, well, shouldn't we go somewhere private? And Trump goes, why? Are you afraid of transparency?
Exactly.
Are you afraid?
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, that is 100% the power. The power is not in the press. The power is in, the what do they call that? It's the power of public opinion, right? The power of it's not a court of law, but it is the court of public opinion. And so if you can get the American people to see what real transparency actually looks like, and to actually believe, wow, maybe this would be a good thing, then they can start contacting their representatives, say, hey, why don't you do the same thing that Representative Nate Cain is doing? What you're going to have happen. And this is the great thing about it, folks, is that, look, I don't care if any of these people are my friends. I really don't.
That's the only attitude to have. You're only beholden to the people, not to these.
I care about the people of West Virginia, and I'm representing them and their interests, and then I'm honoring my oath of office. And I don't care about any of these other people being my friends. None of these other people help me get elected. The people of West Virginia are going to be the ones that help me get elected. And that's what matters. And as long as I can do that and I can have my integrity, then I think that I can actually accomplish some things. But if I go in there tainted from the very get-go, if I have to, be beholden to special interests and lobbyists and, PACs and super PACs and all of that just to get elected, if that's what it's going to take, then I know our system is done. Yeah. So this is going to be. I wondered
why you need $100 million to run a campaign anyway. I mean, really, what the hell? It's nuts to me. Obama raised $350 million for his campaign, for his presidential campaign. I'm like, what the hell are you?
I can tell you this, that there are things that I'm facing right now where I'm being blocked. I had a speaking event at a university that got canceled, and but my opponent was scheduled after me, mind you, scheduled to go speak before my event that got canceled. Mm-hmm. I was canceled and told, oh well, it's because we're too close to finals. But another university refused to let me come speak, yet they'll let Shelley Moore Capito, our senator, come speak. I have
what prevents you from showing up anyway?
Well, I'm going to. I am going to. Believe me, I'm going to. And I'm going to make
that would be my advice.
Because what I want to make clear to the students,
and go live when you're doing it, Nate. Have someone there and have it, on Twitter Live or wherever. Go live and tell them what you're getting ready to do. Walk in, have it all on the level, and then do it. That's going to be that's going to be great publicity for you.
And that's a great idea. There's other people who and I don't care. I call them out now. I call them out. Hoppy Kirchhoff. He's like really popular amongst a lot of the the people out here. Radio program refuses to have me on. Why? Because he says, oh, well, the only reason I let, your opponent on is because, he's the treasurer of West Virginia. And, he'll have all kinds of other politicians on, but he won't let me, come on and talk. Why is it? I'll tell you why I really think. What I think is what's more likely the case is that all of these people are afraid of Shelley Moore Capito. They're afraid of a very powerful senator and who's involved in appropriations. So it is a system of corruption that already exists. I had a meeting planned with 10 business owners down in Grant County that all 10 of them ended up canceling on me. And they canceled on the day of the meeting that had been planned for a month. Why is that? Because they're afraid. They know, I'm sure somebody made a phone call. I put out a press release about a Parents' Bill of Rights that I had put out, and I wrote this. I got with my, my volunteers. We went down, lobbied it to the state legislature. It was very successful. We now have a state legislator who is sponsoring it and who has enough votes in the House to get it passed. We have 4 separate state senators wanting to sponsor it, and it's going to get passed. But we submitted it through PR Newswire, and we even paid the extra money to get it submitted to all of the local newspapers for West Virginia, and the largest publishing organization. My comms director contacted her. They own 15 papers in West Virginia. She contacted and asked if they were going to publish the news story, and they said, "Oh, well, we'll get it. We'll look at it and we'll let you know." She calls immediately back because she realized she forgot to give him her contact info, and she gets the assistant, and the assistant says, "Oh, sorry, the editor in chief's on the phone right now. He's not available. He's on the phone with Shelley Moore Capito." So I'm getting blocked every which way that they can. But what they can't do is they can't block me from knocking on doors. They can't block me from walking on campus. They can't block me, from going to these places and showing up. I had a couple of counties where the county GOP, every time we called and asked if I could come speak, they came up with some lame excuse as to why, either the meeting was canceled or they came up with some excuse as to why I couldn't speak. So we said, you know what? Screw this. We just went and we showed up. And then while we were there in front of everybody in the room, my wife, who's my campaign manager, she asked, "So will you let Nate come speak next week or next month?" And got her, I could see the irritation in her face, but she had to say yes. So that's what we're up against. I do have to. There are expenses, right, involved in running for office, but it's not, you don't need $500,000. You don't need $1 million to run a campaign. A couple $100,000 is probably enough for the size of our state, but the reality is that you do have a lot of people who are, involved in this cabal, and it's on both sides. I mean, the Democrats, it's the Republicans, it doesn't matter. It's what it is. It's a system of control by those that are already entrenched in power, and they don't want to give that control up. So I'm experimenting right now to see if I can run an honest campaign and get elected in this state. Mm-hmm. And if I can, and I believe I can, then you're going to see somebody in there in Congress who's already gone up against Hillary Clinton, already gone up against the FBI, who's already gone up against the DOJ, who's gone up against the threats from Russian intelligence agents, and who went up against the corrupt cabal, that basically runs West Virginia politics.
Patriots, I kept my promise, didn't I? And it only gets better from here. Nate Cain is a congressional candidate from West Virginia, like I told you at the beginning of this thing. That guy has the absolute intestinal fortitude to do exactly what he said he'd do. He's a man of God. He's a man of faith. He's a man of integrity who has values, who will carry those right to the Capitol. He's there to represent West Virginia, yes, but there's another America First voice in Congress, and that benefits all of us. So if you have the power to go into your purse and pull out $10, $20, please do it. Here's a guy who's up against lobbyists and special interest groups on K Street. And he needs all the help he can get from anywhere he can get it. So, guys, we have promised to continue to make sure that we push for the right people and do the right things. And when I tell you this is that, believe me, it is. Anything you can do to help this man out would be definitely something that would benefit the America First movement and America as a whole in the long run. Now, we have some other things we're working on. Like I told you, there's a third FBI whistleblower that we are talking to, someone who not going to say his name yet because we're working out times and dates, but I did get a commitment from him to come on the show. So that's going to be an amazing one coming forward. We're also investigating Americans for Prosperity. People say, why? Why would you do that? They're a conservative organization, right? No, folks. They are a special interest mouthpiece, and they are looking to try to divide the conservative party, like so many new conservative movements as of late that have turned on Trump, and they started a completely different narrative. And we're going to get into that in detail. And And we have somebody actually on the inside who is able to deliver every single stinking detail. And we're lining that up and we're going to give it to you. Trust me, they're not who you think they are. They're really not who you think they are. And we're going to make sure you know who they really are. So, guys, as usual, the silent majority, you need to stop being silent and stand your ground. But I'm going to say one more thing before we get out of here. Folks, we have a new presence on Twitter. We're now running on Apple iTunes. We need your help on the platforms that we are newly on, like Twitter and Apple iTunes. Go follow us everywhere you have the ability to follow us. If you have an X account formerly known as Twitter, go find us at the Patriots Pray. So that's how you find us. Our screen name is at the Patriots Pray. You look up the Patriots Prayer, we're going to be found. We're definitely going to be there. You know my logo. So go ahead and follow us there. I mean, I'm on there anymore now more than anywhere because of the tactics I'm running into at Facebook. Facebook has sought to limit our reach because they say we posted political ads. And I say that's funny because we're approved to post political ads about social issues. And they've agreed to this for 3 months. But they've been getting back to me for 48 hours for 3 months. So they intentionally have decreased our reach and kind of put us in quicksand over at Facebook. So we have redirected our efforts to Twitter and a few Facebook groups that I still actually go into, but there's no point in sitting over there and wasting the time putting the information and the ads and all those things together over there when they don't even allow us to run our advertising anymore as a result of a mistake that they made. So, guys, come check us out on Twitter, show us some love. And I guarantee you, and it's even better because it's a First Amendment platform. So I'm not muzzled. I'm able to give you everything without no kind of barrier or guardrail or whatsoever. So I'm able to tell you the whole truth. We're able to talk about everything. And trust me, there are things that we couldn't talk about on Facebook, things I couldn't post. Just like there are things I can't say on other platforms. But Twitter's not one of them. Twitter and Rumble, thank God for real First Amendment, real American platforms. So follow us there, please. We definitely need the support there. And one more time, as usual, the silent majority, you need to stop being silent and stand your ground. We'll see you next time on the Patriots Prayer Podcast. You guys have a great week.
My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you